Awesome. So Alex, right before you jumped on, I just went through what we're going to be doing. We do have quite a few new people today to the LeanPlanner demo that they weren't on the first demo. So we're just going to quickly overview it, answer questions as we go along, and then we're going to swap over controls to Chris so we can check out their board and how their team has set up their LeanPlanner board.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay.
Just waiting for my iPad to turn on here, but we can get started while that's happening. So, all right, folks, I apologize that I'm a little bit stuffed up today. So if something I say isn't clear or anything like that, please just speak right up and let me know. That being said, LeanPlanner it's fairly straightforward, right? The whole point is that when you if you're oh, hello?
Yeah, hello, calling for the Lean planning meeting.
Hi, Reese, you're on.
Okay. All right, I couldn't get it to go through the computer at all, so.
Yeah,
can you see the screen?
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
All right, Alex, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're applying, lean principles and methodologies to, managing a project, right? And it's on the whole, it works well, right? But when you're managing the execution of tasks, when you manage that using a physical system and processes, then you can bump into some limitations because the system is physical, right? So perfect example is if you've got a whiteboard with stickies on the wall in a room somewhere, then, that's where it is. And what, if the plan gets updated or changed, how do you communicate that change out to people who are not necessarily in the same place geographically or, things like that. And so from our point of view, we're not, so sometimes people look at a software, right? And they think, okay, this is going to automate the process. And that's not really what we're aiming to do at all. We really are much more focused on saying, use us as the right tool for the right job, but it's really about taking those limitations that you run into using a physical system and trying to help you overcome those things very specifically. So just a little background there, and then the whole point here is just that it's a real-time, visual understanding of the status of the work, right? This is in the cloud. You can see I'm logged in on my browser, and when anyone has access to it that you give access to, you can have as many boards as you want, right? There's no, hey, we only have room on the wall for so much space. And then when you go into a board, you're going to see what we think of as a digital whiteboard with digital stickies. And so at a glance, we've got a few different groups here from left to right. They're, make ready, in progress, and completed. And then when you open up a particular group, you're now going to see the various lanes and columns that you've created. You can lay these out, in any way, shape, or form that you want, whatever makes sense for the job that you're, the work that you're managing. In this case, the different color cards are different trades. We can see very quickly and easily some visual information, who are they assigned to, planned due dates, big red X means it's blocked. We can mouse over that and we can see why it's blocked. And at a glance, right, it's okay, there's some stuff that's ready to do. There's a bunch of stuff in progress, and there's a bunch of stuff ready for review, right? And as something moves through the process, it's simply a matter of picking up the card and just moving it along. When you open up a card, there's some additional information you can put in, right? You can see, okay, who are the assigned users? If there's discussion on a card, rather than having a whole bunch of emails flying around or texts or, information in different places, it's just, hey, all the discussion about this particular thing is right here on the card. anyone who needs it can see the whole conversation. Same thing, any relevant attachments, maybe permitting documentation, photos, whatever it might be, right? Just attach it and it's all right there. And then, certainly one of the foundations of lean and lean methodologies is trusting the people that you work with. But at the same time, we sort of look at it as trust but verify, right? If you look at the board and you're thinking about the plan and you say, when I talked to so-and-so earlier this morning, I thought that this activity was, at a different stage. I'm wondering why it's over here. If you've got a question like that, or why did we make some change or whatever, this gives you the ability to go in and see, oh, Alex moved this card, and when, and so on and so forth. And if you had further questions, okay, let me go talk to Alex about this. So it's not meant to be a big brother thing. It's more just to provide a little bit more visibility and context as to what's going on. So it's really, that's sort of the core value prop. 80% of the value that you're going to get out of LeanPlanner is simply realized by having everybody have access to a real-time dynamic visual understanding of what is the status of the work right now. A couple other things that we'll touch on real quickly. We've got a mobile app for this, and let me just get this displayed here. The idea with the mobile app, so you can still absolutely, I've got my iPad here, and it's just syncing to my laptop screen. And the idea with the mobile app is you can still view cards on a board-by-board basis, but where the board and going through the web interface it's really about sort of looking at the work from the perspective of the team. The mobile app is much more individually focused, right? And so the really useful thing here is that it gives me the ability to look at all of the cards that I want to pay attention to, whether they're mine or somebody else's, right here in one spot, regardless of what board they're actually part of. And I can still open them up here. I can edit the details. It looks a little bit different than how it looks on the computer, but that's just because this is optimized for a touch interface instead of the mouse. So it's the same thing here, though. If you make a change, if you update something here, it's going to sync right back to the web application. So the mobile app just lets you update things when you're out and about. Maybe you're talking to a client, maybe you're on site, maybe you're in the car, who knows, right? Could be lots of stuff. And then last, but certainly not least, is the filtering and the reporting. So real quickly here, when all of the information that you're able to put into a card is essentially able to be tracked, and we can filter. So you can say at a glance, show me only those cards that are blocked, right? Or show me any combination of data that you want to see, right? You could say, show me, I'm trying to figure out why this has been, delayed for a little bit. Show me cards that have not been moved in 2 weeks, right? That could be what's slipping through the cracks kind of thing. So there's lots of different applications there, but the point is you can filter on pretty much any piece of data that you put in here. And then same thing, you can, in terms of reporting, we have the ability to, there's a whole bunch of pre-built reports that are just part of the software. And it's really all about just giving you, it's not reporting for reporting's sake, right? It's about having actionable intelligence so that you can, within the context of the lean philosophy and methodology, you can use the reporting to visualize what's going on and then use that information to more effectively enable those continuous improvement conversations, right? So if we look at an example, and it's very much it's a garbage in, garbage out type deal with the reporting. But for example, here's a plan % complete report, and we could look at this and we could say, okay, so at the end of the year, we were doing okay with reliably meeting our commitments, and then in the beginning of the new year, we're not really doing so hot anymore. and you can sort of drill down and figure out, okay, well, it seems like there's, some cards that are, more consistently finishing later than their planned dates. That might suggest that maybe, for instance, there's a new person or team on the project, right? Maybe they're new to Lean, or they're not used to, reliably, or how to make commitments in a way that's going to allow them to reliably meet those commitments when they say they will. And so, you can drill down, you can figure out exactly which cards it is. Maybe you realize, oh, it's Alex, he's new to this, let's go have a conversation with him. And instead of, everybody sort of being in a situation where there's a lot of finger pointing and arguments and a lot of playing the blame game, and, it's a much more productive, oh, hey, Alex, so we noticed that over the past few weeks, you've been making your commitments, but you've been, making them late. And so we wanted to talk and figure out, how can we help you be better at that? All sorts of stuff, right? So it's very much meant and intended to be used in that fashion. But, I said earlier that the visual understanding of the status of the work is 80 to 85% of the value prop. The reporting is garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not actually using the software for its core value prop, and putting that data in and moving those cards through the process, then your reports are going to be useless because they're going to look very weird and have all sorts of weird stuff going on with them. So that is at a high level, sort of the overview. It's very much about visual understanding of the status of the work for the entire team, regardless of where you're located. We've got some nifty tools around, hey, you're out and about on the go. We've got mobile app, you need some reporting to help make those conversations more effective. Great, we've got that for you too. But yeah, at this point, any questions, any thoughts, anything like that?
Sorry, I was muted. This is Elizabeth. I'm just going to ask a question on behalf of some of our other team members who have, I think we talked about this before in the previous call, but we have some team members who work with really robust IT departments, security, right? And have had some trouble, for example, with integrating our Podio system fully on board because their systems don't really allow it. So let's say we have a design team member who hits a snag and just cannot get logged into the system. What kind of support, what would that person do in the moment when they're trying to get access to the schedule and, just can't get there?
Yeah. So if and it sort of depends, right? My general approach would be that their first stop would be the quick reference or help, right? And that would just sort of be the basic troubleshooting of, wait a minute, I'm trying to do this, and did I accidentally click the wrong button somewhere, right? Type deal. And then, once you do that, if it really is like, okay, wait a minute, it looks like I'm doing things right, and I'm not sure what's going on here. We definitely have a robust support network, and it's a 3-tiered support team. So I believe you would. I think the way it works is that you're going to have a dedicated point of contact on your end. So if it's just random team member, whomever, they would talk to the dedicated point of contact on their end, who would then email support@newformer.com. The ticket's going to get automatically generated, gets put into the queue, gets picked up, and then escalated as needed. Sometimes it's a quick, hey, here's the answer. Other times it's, oh, wait a minute, we actually need to dig in. Something's, going wonky here. Let's figure it out. Pick up the phone and, that sort of thing. But whatever it is, we do have a robust 3-tiered support team in place to handle that. And then in addition to that, Taryn is going to be your overall, main point of contact here at Newforma. And part of what she does is, makes sure that you're taking care of, right? So we've had situations in the past where for whatever reason, right, maybe there's a bunch of support stuff going on a particular day, right? A lot of people happen to call in, and if you're sitting there going, it's been a little while, not sure what's going on, that type of thing, you can always feel free to give Karen a call and just say, hey, what's happening? Can you double check? Just make sure that this didn't get lost in the weeds. And 99% of the time it didn't. We take tickets in the order that they come in. But it could just be that, hey, there's some bigger fire that we've had to dedicate a lot of resources to, or whatever. There's lots of stuff that could potentially happen, right? And if you needed an additional clarification, you've always got Karen there as well.
Yep, and I was just going to jump in and go on top of that. So just don't hesitate to reach out to me if anything comes up.
Great, and I think that one thing that might help is if we could designate somebody, this is of course assuming that we go forward with the solution, that somebody would be designated from within each firm to work with you, Karen, kind of on the front end to make sure that whatever security and, archiving and some of the concerns that we've had from each team member can be addressed, per that company's normal way of doing business, because we all differ.
Sure.
Absolutely.
This is Reese, our person. I have a question because I know that this is also tied to Newforma systems, which our office is currently using. So for kind of the way that we use Newforma for kind of tying up, all of our CA processes and stuff, would this be able to tie into that?
So it's actually a separate product.
It is a separate. So it doesn't like interface then.
Not directly. What you could do, if you want, is there's an import-export ability here, and you can just import-export CSV files. So if you were, for instance, tracking submittals in Newforma, yeah. So you could have your list of submittals in Newforma. You could export that to a CSV file, and then import that CSV file here into LeanPlanner. And you might have to massage the column headers just a little bit, before you import it, so it picks up the right information. But essentially, each card would then be its own submittal, and this would be a much more visual way of viewing that information than the login inside of Newforma.
Yeah. Am I duplicating work then?
Yeah, at that point you would be.
Okay, that's kind of what I was afraid of. All right.
Yeah.
Alex, it's Chris. I just wanted to ask you to go back to your board, and there are some special cards that have a little visual cue at the bottom that indicate that there are multiple tasks or commitments, as we are wanting to call them, that are involved in a particular thing. Can you go over how that works?
Yep, absolutely. So just to make sure I'm on the same page, you're talking about this little progress bar that says 0 of 1, 1 of 12, that type of thing.
Yes, yep, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So we didn't touch on it, and that was just more me not wanting to do the whole information overload thing. But basically, there is the ability to connect any card with any other number of cards. And the idea being that whether that's between cards on the same board or between cards on different boards, right? You might have one board that is a higher level. Here's our milestones for the next 4 months, and then another board that's tracking weekly activities. And the idea is not. I want to be really clear here. It's not meant to be a scheduling tool in the sense that there's logical dependencies involved in these connections between cards. It's really just meant to give you visibility into hold on, what's going on here, right? And so in this particular example, right, we've got some activities that are related to the card, and you can see that there's a little red exclamation point next to it, right? And the whole point of this is to give you the ability to look and say, aha, there's something here where there's a discrepancy, right? Between, and it's typically between planned finish dates, right? So, if your milestone is set to finish on March 1st, but you have a child card that is set to finish, March 5th, then the software is going to tell you, hey, there's a discrepancy here, and give you that visibility to go and say, oh, maybe something changed, right? Maybe material didn't show up on site, or somebody got sick and we had to rearrange a couple things. And it's not, with a CPM type scheduling tool, right? You make one change and it just waterfall cascade, bumps the rest of the project out by a month or whatever it winds up being. This is meant to, rather than prescriptively, do that sort of thing. It's much more meant to give give you the ability to look and say, aha, this happened, something, some life happens, right? Something didn't go according to plan. We can see what that is. We all can see what that is as a team. We can figure out who do we need to talk to. We can have a quick conversation, and we can go in and then say, oh, okay, well, this material didn't show up on site today. And so, this particular activity might be delayed by a day or two, but we actually can then, take the resources that we were going to devote to those activities, and we can move them over here, and we can maybe pull in this other thing that we were going to work on, tomorrow or something. And so the overall, the intent is that, maybe the overall schedule doesn't change, but it allows you to much more flexibly manage those little bumps and hiccups that happen just as part of sort of regular day-to-day operations as you go through the project.
All right, thanks for that. And then what is the difference between making connections between cards that might be on this board or on other boards, and then making tasks within the task? Because I was looking at both of those when I was playing around with it and just trying to figure out strategically when would you use one and when might you use another.
Yeah, so I actually personally am not a fan of tasks, right? Because so to me, the difference is that connections are something that it's a team level discussion, right? Whereas tasks are simply, this might be, hey, I've got this activity that I need to do, and I might have a stack of papers or a report or, some permits that I need to file these. And it's really nobody else's responsibility. It's just, in order to get this task done, I have to do A and B and C. And I just don't want to forget that, I'm running around busy. Can't forget that. It's more, tasks is more intended to do, to be that, right? It's much more from a personal accountability, personal, if you guys are using any of the Kanban terminology, right? It's that personal Kanban sort of accountability thing. But the danger is that you can go, you can go too in depth, right? I mean, I've seen people who say, okay, well, the task, I have 10 subtasks, right? And then you get to a point where it's like, well, do you really have 10 subtasks, or should some of those actually just be other cards that are just on the board, right? And so I tend personally to, it's actually something I don't usually bring up during a demo because I think it can potentially confuse things. And so, yeah, it's something that can be useful, but I would caution, I'd say maybe use it not right away, right? Get people in the habit of saying, okay, there's an activity that needs to be done and tracked. Let's make that a board level activity. And then, if you then, a month or two in feel that, hey, people are putting things that are not really team level activities on the board, then you might come back and reevaluate and say, maybe we should use tasks, right? But it would be, sort of a step-by-step use of that particular capability as opposed to just trying to use it all at once.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any
Do we want to
other
pop
questions?
over to? Yeah. Do we want to pop over to our board?
Yep, I was just
Yeah.
going to ask. All right, so Chris, let me just make you the presenter quickly. Okay. Perfect. I can see the board.
Okay. Great.
Can everybody else see Chris's board?
Yes.
Great.
Great. So this is just a little demo. I invited you all to join it. I think some of you have had a chance to do that, just so that you would get a chance to play around with it a little bit, and we could, try communicating and assigning tasks to people and that sort of thing. I just wanted to, let me see, I'm just going to hide this. There we go. I just wanted to bring up an example of how we specifically, because we're right now in the design phase, and so that's a little bit different than dealing with pipe fitters and and the folks who are out there building the project. But I'm hoping that if this tool is right for us, that we can become really good at it during the design phase. It can help accelerate that work and help us have a great workflow as a team, and then get really good at it so that when we go into the construction part of the project, everybody's really mastered this tool and would find it helpful. So I think, I don't know, is Jim Bush on the line too?
No, I'm sorry, he's not. He has a meeting this morning.
Ah, okay. All right, thanks. So I was just going to, let me do this. Let me instead bring up this, let me make a new card. So just as an example, we have lots of meetings, as you all know. And I think that we're trying to get better and better at making sure that those meetings are really productive. But let's say that we're having a meeting, and in that meeting, we're discussing something, which is we're going to need a sign design, and so I'm just going to put that. I'm just going to change that to let's say create sign design. And then I'm just going to go in here and edit these details a little bit more here. Create a monument sign design for approval by city. And then there's a little assigned users here, and I'm going to assign that to Stuart Cron, since I know he's on the call. Go back here to these details and say that this is you're not gonna be able to start this today, but on Monday you're gonna get started, and you think that it'll take you 3 days to do. So I'll put that in there, and then go ahead and save this. And what we would see now is that this comes up in this tasks being planned. So one of the things that when we were working with Kristen about our lean process was that you need to confirm a commitment that you're asking somebody to make. So as long as something is in this tasks being planned column, I'm thinking that is essentially asking Stuart to make this commitment to creating this sign design, monument sign design. And if he does commit to it, then I will see that he will move it from here to here. That's simple. That's the only action. Then I'm getting notification that Stuart has done that. I see it's moved into here. Stuart got an email when I created this task saying that I've assigned a task to him. Or if he's looking at the board, it doesn't have to necessarily be through email. That's just a backup plan. If he's looking at the board, he can see that I created that. Now he's committed to doing that, and we know that that's the case. And let's say it's going to start in a week or something. It might stay in this committed task, and then he can either move it in the to-do column or in the doing now column if he's working on it. Does that make sense to everybody? And Alex and Taryn, am the way I'm talking about using this for our team, does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I just got 3 emails on that particular effort. I assume we can control our notifications
Yep. So
as that was happening. Okay.
yeah. So there's a couple different types of notifications. There's board level notifications. So if you subscribe to notifications for the board, and in some cases that makes sense, right? The most notable is, you might be the general superintendent on site, and you're going to want to get notified on, everything that happens, right? So if you do that, you're going to get notified for every change. When you are assigned to a card, when it's your card, you're also going to get notifications every time that changes. Beyond that, though, we have the ability for you to subscribe to notifications on a card-by-card basis. So if, say, you and I are working together and you're waiting on something that some deliverable that I need to complete in order for you to do, X, Y, Z, you could subscribe to that card to get the notification that, oh, hey, Alex finished what he needed to finish. But you wouldn't necessarily need to get notified on, the other cards that I was working on. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. No, I think that does make sense. And so, just as a team, I guess, what's your experience with this product interrelating with Podio? Would the team be committing then to say we're moving all tasks and other communication off of Podio onto this, or what would we still do in Podio if we had this?
I personally am not familiar with Podio. Is that just a central call it filing cabinet or repository for information or documents type thing, or is it more of
It's kind of team collaboration, but I think that Stuart, my thought about that, and we've been talking about that a little bit at Place, is that Podio is not too good actually at being able to help people manage their tasks, and for all of us to kind of keep track of that. And I think one of the reasons is there's not a great visual, interface that says, here's a task that Naresh is working on. It's being planned at the moment, so he hasn't committed to it, although I think he created this. But and it looks like it's due on the 2nd. So there's this great little bit of visual information that you can just get at a glance. Knowing what column it's in tells you one thing, kind of whose picture is assigned to it. When is it due? These tags you can hover over and see, what's assigned that way. So I think that this is a much more powerful tool for managing our tasks than Podio. So I think that we could still communicate about things through Podio and using that as our main kind of interface for communicating about things. And if there were a particular event that's happening on the Podio calendar, it can create links that take you right into LeanPlanner, so that you can take a look at a detailed set of tasks that are associated with that. So I think that's what we can do is create links between Podio and LeanPlanner, and it might require us to experiment a little bit with how to use them in the most complementary fashion.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to create redundancy between the two where some information is in Podio. We've learned that we can attach, communications to cards and, really sort of include all the project information right along with the task. And I don't want to have us have to track it down here and on Podio and have it be part in both places at the same time. If you know what I'm saying? Because then it's easier to actually miss things at that point. So
yeah,
and
I think that's right.
I agree with that too. And to that point, our general mindset in terms of adopting and applying this particular software, sometimes it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes people look at a software, right, and they sort of have it's a silver bullet. We're just gonna throw the software into the mix and it's going to make everything better. And I'm not saying that I think you guys have that mindset at all, but in our experience, that never works out well. And what works best is very much at the people and at the team level, sitting down and having a conversation about, okay, this is our current situation. These are, the challenges or the goals that we're trying to address or get to. And, these are the systems and the processes we've got. What levers does it make sense to pull? And then, once you have that sort of planned out, then it's much easier to say, oh, okay, well, we're going to pull levers, 1, 5, and 7. And this piece of software can actually really help with 5. It can sort of help with 7, but it's really not helpful for 1. So we're not going to try to apply it over there. It's going to be very much, use it specifically and in a very targeted way for where it works the best. And, don't try to force, a square peg into a round hole sort of thing. So that's sort of our just general recommendation on the right mindset to take when adopting or applying the software.
And have you seen, so on teams like this, with a $80 to $100 million project, where we have robust companies coming together and working on this, have you seen this be the sole tool that everybody puts everything in, or is there task planning at the firm level going on the side, and then this is used more as sort of a centralized reporting and management tool for that intersection between, say, all the activities that are going on the development team side, all the activities going on the contractor side, all the activities going on the design side? Is it the expectation that everything that everybody's working on all go into here, or is this more the coordination tool at the intersection between those tasks that each group is performing?
Yep, I would say that while I've seen it both ways, it's intended to be the second. And certainly in terms of initial adoption, saying, hey, we're going to bite off this piece that's very small and very doable, and we're going to get people very comfortable with that and very on board with, oh yeah, hey, this is really, it is adding a lot of value to my day and it's making my life easier, and it's helped drive things forward. Get people comfortable and used to that one small bit, and then very naturally, right? Someone will say, hey, this has been useful, in this situation when we were in this meeting working on this team. We've got a similar thing over here. Maybe we should give it a try over there, right? And it sort of very naturally grows and expands to the right scope within, whether it's the team or the company, whatever particular perspective you happen to be looking at it from. When you do it that way, it sort of very naturally expands to the right fit, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to try to use this for pull planning. We're going to try to throw our, if you're using like P6 or Microsoft Project, we're going to try to throw our CPM schedules in here and manage those there. And we're going to try to do all this other stuff. And it could be a way to visualize some of that data. And certainly we've seen people apply it in those situations. But I would say that is a more nuanced application of the software, and it's a more advanced application of the software, and it's not one that I would recommend people try sort of right off the bat. If that answers your question.
So, Alex,
go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to mention is, Alex had mentioned that this is not a scheduling tool. Sort of a longer term overall could be P6 or a scheduling tool that Stantec might be using. So, Alex, what I hear from you is this is more a short-term granular tool for managing the tasks and activities on the lean planning methodology, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So there are two layers to this. So one is a longer-term P6 critical path method that ties together everything, but this is a short-term managing commitments on activities and tasks. right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because if you think about P6, right, and you're thinking about that critical path methodology, if you try to apply that to somebody who's, out on site in the trenches, saying, okay, well, I've got to get this material delivered today, and then, oh wait, Joe is sick, and what do we get? That those little bumps and hiccups. P6 it's too big of a, that's a sledgehammer when you need like a little ball peen, hammer type thing, right? So that's the wrong tool for that. And so that's where we see this being very applicable and helping to manage those, the execution of day-to-day tasks against the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think with that, when we did our physical poll planning exercise using the last planner method with sticky notes and put it up on a board, it was all about, can we get our PUD application in? I think was the deadline that we had, or no, maybe it was a previous deadline. But anyway, we all put up a bunch of kind of commitments that we wanted to get people to make. We were in the room with each other, so we went around and said, Stuart, can you create this sign design, and Naresh, can you obtain this electrical demand from Stantec? And then Naresh would sign it, and physically, and we knew that he was going to make the commitment to it, and that was I think really helpful in everybody understanding the kind of the network of promises that were being made to one another. But then when we took that board down, it was really only accessible to place, thereafter. So I think it was helpful, even for that 1 day exercise, to really understand what everybody needed to do and how it's all interconnected. But I think being able to then come back and look at this and so Naresh, how you're going to obtain this electrical demand from Stantec, this is just a demonstration, folks. These aren't necessarily meant to be the things. It's just people playing around with this. But, I would see, again, us creating a card of something that we know needs to be done. Maybe, here's a couple here. We don't even have them assigned to anybody yet. So that could be part of a conversation at a PMT meeting, or a PIT meeting. How are we going to create this campus-wide arts integration plan? Who wants to head that up? And then there might be a chain of multiple connected tasks to this that need to be involved in getting that done. And then those all can be given assignments. And that's how we can do a big, complicated project and make sure it gets done. So again, I think Podio is still a great tool for our communications with one another about stuff. But then the moment that we want to move to task management, it's not very effective. It's not very visual. It's not very lean. And so I think that that being able to engage something like this would be helpful. But I'm interested to know what others think.
Well, and if I may, I'd actually like to make a quick comment on that too. You mentioned that having everybody physically signing a sticky and committing to their peers in front of the group, there's something very fundamentally visceral about that. And I mentioned it at the very start of the conversation today that we're not trying to automate the process, and in fact that is one of the places where we found that especially for sort of the first time applying this to a project or a team or something like that, this software, that it actually can often make more sense to still have that planning meeting and do it with physical stickies, and then have somebody say, okay, after that meeting, I'm going to take 30 minutes and I'm going to enter all the cards into LeanPlanner, and just as a stepping stone to it's just one more thing that if you're going through the adopting Lean and getting used to all that, and you found, it sounds like that physical personal interaction with the team and making those commitments has been very helpful. And so, we would say, hey, don't take away something that's been really great in that sense. Just add us in after, right? And then, maybe on future projects when everybody's comfortable with the software and, whatever, you can have that, you can still have everyone in the room doing the planning, but you just directly create the cards in the software. That might be step two, or, step two. But that's also something to consider, right? Is that the planning is can oftentimes be the most effective way, right? Can oftentimes be very much in person and with a physical commitment. So just something to consider.
Yeah, that makes sense, Alex. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things. The place where this adds value is once you create cards, those are physical cards, there's no way to get visibility to everyone on the team. Chris, you mentioned that. And the key thing is, if you don't track, if you don't update, and the dates fall behind, then all the information on the cards, the accuracy of that goes away. And initially, when you have a planning session, you might have a lot of cards, but I think where you'll get value most out of the system is you create the granularity for a couple of weeks or months ahead, where you get all the tasks in, and you don't try to get all the tasks in for the next year. And so you kind of manage the two-week rolling ahead or month rolling ahead with all the granularity, so everybody is working together. But if all the team members are not collaborating and working together, then this becomes difficult to manage also.
Oh, absolutely. It's very much a garbage in, garbage out. If as a team, this is very much a, if you as a team look at this and you have 50% of the people say, wow, this is great, we're going to love it, we're going to use it. And you have 50% of the people who say, absolutely not, there's no way I'd touch that with a 10-foot pole, you can't force me to use it, whatever. Then frankly, paying for the software would be the wrong choice, because now you've added complicatedness and you've added a new dimension of, just a pain to deal with, right? So absolutely, like you want to do this. I mean, we think there's a lot, it can add a lot of value, but fundamentally, only if everybody's on board and has agreed that, hey, yeah, this is how we're going to manage this, specific piece of things.
Alex, to that end, if I pass this back to you, or if you reclaim this, can you show me a little bit about how to use filters so that, for example, if somebody really wanted to find out, hey, what's my work looking like over the next couple of weeks or month? How do I filter a board that has a lot of tasks on it? That, it's great, I can see the entire thing, but just what am I supposed to be doing right now would be a really helpful view, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So you go down to, let me just reset the filters, make sure there isn't anything weird in there. So you would go down to user, and it's going.
I'm still seeing my screen, by the way. I don't know if I need to get back to you, I guess. Oh, there we go. Okay, never mind.
Oh, sorry. Yep. All right. Mm-hmm. So you would just, so you come over to the filters, and you would come down to user here in the bottom, mm-hmm. and you would just go down to, here's me. And we're going to show only those cards that are mine. And so that would be the first step, right? And there's not a ton of cards on this board, so it filtered down very quickly. But we could then, there's different tags on here, right? So this has, a different reason for variance than this one. And so depending on what my particular work was, or, what I was trying to get at, I would then say, okay, show me all the cards that have inspection issues, right? Or show me all the cards that are related to a submittal, right? And this would be, you can start very quickly and easily filtering down and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to get on top of? What do I need visibility into? How should I be organizing my efforts and my energy over, the next day, week, month, whatever it might be. But you can literally filter on any combination of data that is in a card.
How about the things that you mentioned to me last time about how the little calendar is red because it's past due and it becomes yellow when it's almost due, and so you get this nice visual if you're looking at your tasks about what's kind of hot. Can you also filter, what's due, what's getting close to due, and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So you would say finish date is less than 7 days from now, and it's going to show you. So these cards are both overdue. So let me just change the date here. What's today's date? The 17th. So let's put this to the 22nd. And I'm just going to clear the filters here for a second. So let's show me my cards, and then where's date? And I'm going to say less than 7 days from now. Oh, yeah, I need to turn on the. Oh. Why is that? Oh, because this one, overdue cards are by definition less than 7 days away, aren't they? That's why it wasn't doing it. There we go. Okay. So just so we can see it in action, right? So here's all my cards, and then I'm going to say, less than a week till the due date, and it would very quickly, get down to that. And you can see here that those, before, when those due dates were past due, the calendar symbol was red. Within a week, it's yellow, and then older or due outside of a week, it's gray.
Yeah, that's a great visual cue. One of the things I want to do just to wrap it up, because I don't want to keep everybody too long here, Alex and Taryn, is just to reach out to this team that's on the phone here and just find out what people think about this, and what concerns. Is this a valuable tool? What do you still need to know? Just please, anyone jump in, especially if you haven't spoken already, and let us know what you're thinking, because we don't want to invest in this if we don't think it's going to be useful, and if people feel like it's too complicated to use and/or won't add value, or if you think it will. So I'd just like to hear from you.
So this is Chris from MSR. This is the digital version of my current management post-it system, which I call the analog version. So,
yeah.
So in that regard, it's a familiar, GUI interface. I still think there may need to be a czar of all of this. I think projects still need, somebody sort of overseeing and looking at all of this all the time, just as an air traffic controller device. So I'm not so sure this is completely democratically self-managed. And that's not an indictment on the team, just the nature of the biz. So.
Could the PMT do that as a team, do you think, Chris?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. That's a reasonable alternative based on our current structure. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who else? Still
Chris?
up? Yeah?
Chris? Oh, go ahead. Naresh, are you going?
Yeah. When I have experience with scheduling software and this type of applications for more than 15 years, but you need something like this so that you can granularly manage tasks and activities. Again, as I mentioned, it all comes down to how it's tracked, how it's updated, and everyone's commitment to use this platform. If everyone is committed to using this platform, and if there's an oversight from one person or a team with regards to the tasks that are falling behind and trends and so on, this will be a really valuable tool. And without this, I don't see how a project can be executed successfully, especially given all the other firms, they have their own platform, whether it's P6 or Microsoft Project and so on. There needs to be a way of getting this in together in a granular manner in a short term, two week or a month look ahead, so that everybody can collaborate and execute on this project.
Thank you.
Feedback.
Yeah.
Chris, I guess looking at the objective and preferred outcome, is that your objective of this of using this software?
Yes, I think Naresh actually hit it on the head for me. I'm thinking that exact thing, is that managing the workflow in a collaborative manner with a complex team that is all over the country, and that we want to be able to keep things flowing very effectively. Nobody should, in my mind, nobody should have to check in and say, hey, have you done that yet? Because, I could take a look, or I'd get notified. Naresh finished that ahead of time. That actually gives me an opportunity to start my work that's dependent on his work ahead of time. And so there's even an opportunity for us to get ahead of schedule instead of just preventing getting behind schedule. And I think that's where efficiency could really, tick up a notch. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And it seems really easy in terms of, yes, I'm committing to this. I'm dragging it in to do. I'm working on it. When I'm done, I slide it over into the done column. And then if we want to look at a dashboard of analytics to see how we're doing with completing things, we can do that. But before we even generate those graphs, we can take a look at the board and see how many things are in the yellow or in the red. And that can give us a great visual cue before we even generate analytics to do that. So that's exactly my purpose.
Okay, because my thoughts on it, just, is every time you add another system and process that's not connected, it takes bandwidth. And I think one of the key things that Naresh pointed out is somebody's going to have to be in charge of this.
Yeah.
So if these people can help us connect it to a Podio, the other thing is, I remember the discussion around adding the Podio platform from the other one we were using because it was more powerful and it did the, I guess one of the things to look at is, does Podio have a module already, or can they build a module for us, or can we build a module that will do kind of this, would be one question. And the other is that, one of the things that we do in our briefly weekly meetings was drop our information in there. And I find the days that people have done that, it's very helpful because then I can go, oh, here are my questions when we get the face-to-face. When it's not done,
right.
When it's not done, it's kind of like, I know I've been trying to lead the way in that side of it, but when it's not done, it's almost like, okay, we're flying by the seat of our pants and we can't be as prepared as we could. So I really do like this LeanPlanner system. I'm just afraid that it's going to take more bandwidth, and who's going to actually be that oversight person? Because Naresh nailed it. If you don't have that, even if we're all committed to it, it doesn't always happen. So I just don't want it to be another process where it's not helping us. It's,
Yep. No, thanks for that. Yeah.
And I will preface that I did hear you loud and clear that if we do all commit to it and practice it, we should be really good at it, in a short period of time. So.
Okay. Yeah. So this is Stuart here. I guess I'm curious to hear from the new Forma staff. I mean, I'm looking at scheduling about 20,000 person hours over the next 7 months to deliver this. And so how would that get partitioned into tasks within this kind of a system? I mean, are we talking about 1,000 tasks that I'd break it down into 20-hour chunks, or, what would be the recommendation? I mean, that's the scale at which I'm trying to figure out how much work it would be to use this tool, and, sort of at what level of granularity would we want to partition up what, say, just Stantec as one participant in the process is doing, and then Stahl's going to have a whole bunch of hours that they're going to need to put in on the construction side of it. But just, do you have recommendations? I mean, if that's we're trying to get 20,000 hours of work done in the next 7 months, how would that feed through this tool?
Yep, absolutely. So at that, when you're thinking about it, at that level, right, and at that scale, that's where, P6 and Microsoft Planning and having that critical path view of the world is that's going to be the foundation of that particular view. And then where this is going to come in, right, is that below that sort of critical path, right, you're going to have your 4 to 6 week look ahead pull planning meetings, right? And that's where you're going to be saying, okay, well, working backwards and reverse engineering and backing into the plan here that we've got, we're over the next 6 weeks, we're going to have to make this work ready, and and so on and so forth, right? And you're going to do that bit, and then you're going to bring the LeanPlanner software in at the next level down, where you're going to, especially as a starting point, and you're going to say, okay, in order to manage, let's just say, for instance, the next 2 weeks worth of work, right? We have these 5 things that need to happen over the course of the next 2 weeks. And that's where, and this is going to sort of address the previous point that was just brought up too, right? Which is what's the added, the cost of the added bandwidth here of having another tool or another system in the mix. That 2 weeks view of the world is where you're going to look and you're going to say, okay, if we didn't have this system, what would we be doing, right? We would be putting physical stickies on physical walls, or we'd be using a spreadsheet, and we might still be having our team interactions, whether that's people in a room around a table or conference calls for those planning and commitment making activities, right, amongst team members. But once you get out of the room, then the way we look at it is, how much bandwidth are you going to be using, and how, in terms of managing the execution of those tasks and the communication of how things are being executed. If you're not using something like this, are you then having someone say, well, okay, we've got 6, we've got 6 different versions of the plan because we've got people in 6 different places. And what happens when something changes on our end? Is it a spreadsheet and it's not particularly necessarily easy to visualize the difference between yesterday and today? Or is it, on the wall somewhere and I have to take time and energy out of my day and take a picture of that, and I'm going to email it to myself and then email it out to people, or put it in Podio, or, and even if I do all that, do I know that, everybody got notified and is aware that, hey, there's a change? And so there's sort of a cascading level of consequences, you might say, at the day-to-day, level, but within that sort of 2 week context. And so that's where we would say, especially for an initial starting point as to how would you deploy and apply this, we would say you probably will get the most value the quickest by agreeing as a team that, hey, these 2 week interactions, we'll still have those phone calls, we'll still have those meetings, but then let's put the information in here. And we're all you're doing is you're front loading the work, right? Instead of having to communicate and manage that communication and manage any changes that happen every single time, you front load that a little bit, and then it becomes very easy, assuming that people are using the software, right? For people to just, I think, like Chris said, look at it, and rather than call up and say, hey, have you done this? You just look and you see, oh yeah, it's done, it's ready to go. Does that answer the question, or at least address some of the concerns there?
Alex, I was just going to have you add. There's one of the things that we didn't talk about too much here was this idea of multiple boards. So what I thought of immediately when Stuart brought up his, high level of, amount of tasks, I could see, rather than having a board that has, a sea of stand tech and a sea of stall tasks that makes it difficult to sort through, that you could have an overview board that is showing all of us how things are moving forward. But then, stall could very easily, or stand tech could very easily create a board or a series of boards that are just tracking, at a very high level of granularity, all the different things that they're working on that they don't necessarily need to have on master board. Am I thinking about that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. So we have, just as a very basic example, we have a master schedule dashboard that somebody made in either P6 or Microsoft Project, exported to CSV, imported the milestones, and at a very high level, right, we can see, hey, erect structural frame, right, 24 of 46 tasks. We click on that, we go look at those connections, and we can see, oh, hey, there's a whole bunch of, cards that are related to this, right? And if we have a question about something, we can go click on that card, and it's going to bring us to the board that card is. Now, whether that's a card on Stahl's board, whether that's a card on Stantec's board, who knows? But absolutely. And then that's exactly what Connections is for, right? That use a board, apply the context of we've got a board to that's the organizational concept there, right? And you say, okay, this board is for managing the overall view of the world. This board is for managing, our team of 5 people's next 2 weeks. This board is for managing, Stahl's 6-week look ahead milestones. But you can make those connections between cards, between boards, and sort of have those pieces of information roll up and flow back down.
But Alex, the intent here is not to add all the activities that might be there in P6 or Microsoft Project. There could be 1,500 activities, but the intent here is to add the milestone and highlight.
Whoops. I think we got placed on hold there.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah. Can we place us on hold? We can. Erin, I don't know if you have the ability to mute people or what.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who that's coming from. Is that coming from Naresh?
Naresh, you still there?
Yeah, it looks like he just muted. It's not him.
Doesn't sound like it's coming from him. That's sure.
Hilarious. Well, if you guys can still hear me, he was absolutely correct, right? I mean, it's not about necessarily getting every little thing in there. It's about being able to say, here's the things we need to keep track. These are the things we deemed we need to keep track of, right? Whether as a team, as an extended team, as an individual, and then at whatever level you're breaking that out in, right? You can, the next level down might be, hey, there's a smaller team or a smaller group of people that have individual tasks, or you might be saying, well, this is a task that I have to that I've committed to, but there's other things I'm going to be doing in the course of completing this task I've committed to that are not really anyone else's responsibility, and there's that sense of personal management as well in there. So
yeah. Alex, what it's getting at is you don't have to add all the activities that's in P6 or Microsoft Project, but add the high-level milestones, then have the granularity for the 2-week or the 4-week look ahead. That's where you get most value. It's not getting everything. And if there are certain tasks that could be done within Stantec or within Stahl that's managed efficiently, that needn't have to be, come up here. There's a choice here too.
Absolutely. And that's why I keep saying, right? I mean, it's very much not a let's take the software and just slapdash apply it to everything, right? It works so much better when you say, here's a piece of the process that we think we could improve with this type of visibility and ease of communication. And okay, so let's try applying it here. And then, you figure out that, oh, wow, it worked really well for A, not so well for B. So, do we need to make a change there or what, right? It's not at all intended to be sort of a static, broad application. It's very much a pinpoint, dynamic type of application. I'm sorry, is there a question there?
Alex, I have a question.
Someone's asking a question.
Alex, I have a question. This is Bob Ashman. And Reese, you're a user. So you guys have been around for a long time. What do you have? Customers like us, we're kind of always in a startup mode. I hate to say it like that, but we're in that where there's a lot of moving parts, especially for Chris. And what's the adoption rate for a typical customer so we can be realistic about how to implement this? And then what's the retention rate on your customers? Do they find that once they get it up and going, it's an invaluable tool, or do you lose customers after X amount of time?
So Nuforma is, and so I don't know if you folks are aware, but just to be transparent about all this, so LeanPlanner, so it is a software that's made by a company called LeanKit, and they've been around for, I don't know, 7 years, I think, maybe at this point, give or take. But their target market is really, manufacturing and industrial folks and software development, and sort of what you would think of as the classic places where lean methodology has been applied, right? And so they've been trying to enter the AECO market for a while now, but they didn't particularly have the domain expertise. And we've been looking at this and saying, wow, this lean stuff, it looks like there's a lot of value to potentially help folks out and add to people's lives. This seems like something we'd like to get involved in. And so rather than each of us trying to reinvent the wheel, we formed a partnership. And so LeanPlanner has, so Nuforma is the AECO reseller of LeanKit. And LeanPlanner is our version of that. We've got some very design and construction specific things that you wouldn't necessarily bump into as a software developer per se. And so we've only been doing this for about a year. And so I personally feel that we don't really have at Nuforma ourselves, right? Specifically in the AECO industry, we don't have enough data points in terms of new customers and how long they've been using it, and on how many projects to feel comfortable saying that, hey, over the years, a certain percentage of customers has had this amount of success, so on and so forth. We can certainly get statistics like that for you from LeanKit and from their customer base that's been around for 7 years and has done however many projects. And I would say that it's one of those, even though it's not necessarily exactly a customer like you, it is still very much, in the sense that it's a different industry, it is still very much there's plenty of software companies out there who are always in startup mode, right? And always trying to apply, these lean principles and practices and methodologies. And in that sense, I think that those statistics would be very transferable, if you will.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I was at the website. I'm sorry, I didn't mean a long answer. I thought you'd been around since 2002. My mistake. Sorry to even ask that. Go ahead.
No, the company has been around since 2004. But we've only been selling LeanPlanner for about a year. So I just wanted to make sure we were transparent about that.
I just wanted to check in with Derek from Stantec. Are you on?
Yes, looks like he is. Yeah.
Yeah, because Werner had said that you really love to kind of nerd out on these things, and so I was just wondering if you would, let me know what you're thinking about.
Sure. Yeah, we've looked at LeanPlanner, LeanKit a little while ago, and we were eager to try it out on one of our projects, but we weren't able to kind of get it going. So this does seem like a good project for it. So I'm excited about seeing the capabilities. But from our research, it seems like a pretty straightforward product in terms of managing all the different tasks, especially amongst teams in different locations, where it might be more useful in this situation than when you're all in the same office potentially.
I don't mean to cut you off. Just a quick question there. You had said that you hadn't really been able to get it going. Sort of in the context of the previous question, do you think that was that something related to the software itself, or was it the context of that particular project and the particular constraints there, or was it something internal where, for whatever reason, just whoever was looking at it, on the team at Stantec, there was a whole bunch of different opinions, and just from a people perspective, people weren't on the same page. I'm just curious what.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it had not. The team was ready to try it. The project manager, with all of her team members and potentially consultants, the bottleneck was our IT at Stantec. So
okay.
I'm assuming if I'm not exactly sure of all the players on this call, but if this is a directive from clients or other things too, that gives us more leverage in terms of hopefully allowed to do it. But that was our issue before, over about a year ago.
Derek, I had a question for you. What scheduling software do you guys use at Stantec?
What was the question again? Sorry.
What scheduling software do you use at Stantec?
It's a mixture between different offices, but usually we are using Microsoft Projects, and then we have our own kind of in-house baked staffing side of a software, which we use in terms of resourcing the staff that need to be on the different projects, and using that for financial reviews and kind of future revenues, things like that.
Yeah, the question I had there was, so if you develop a project in Microsoft Project, the scheduler Microsoft Project, then you have a bunch of activities. It's all based on critical path method. Once you update, the scheduler itself does a lot of goofy things, and the activities get moved based on the predecessors, successors, on all the relationship. Based on my experience, what I've seen is, if you take Microsoft Project to a granular level to all the tasks and activities, it almost becomes impossible to manage. So you need to keep the P6 and the Microsoft Project at a slightly higher level. But when it comes down to tasks and activities that's got a 2-week look ahead or a 4-week look ahead, then you need to have a mechanism by which you have a little bit of flexibility so that you don't mess up and you're not rescheduling the entire critical path method every single time. And that's where this adds value. Just recently, I completed an acquisition integration. I used QuickBase, but that's more a business type application. About 6,000 companies use. The concept is very similar, but got the acquisition integration completed ahead of schedule and 25% within budget. But this is the key: managing tasks on a 2-week look ahead so that everybody is on page. But the governance was key also. I was the one who was managing that so that I could keep everybody track on what activities were falling behind or what activities could fall behind with the 2-week look ahead window. Without that governance and monitoring, it'll be very tough to keep everybody in control.
A question, because we use Newforma quite a bit for kind of all of our stuff too, and so we actually use some of the planning pieces within the Newforma. Are those able to kind of share between the two, or not really?
Not directly. That would be the export out of Newforma.
So I still have to export everything. Okay.
Yep.
We tried using action items in Newforma for a while, and for us it was a bit too cumbersome. So we had to enter too much information in to kind of get it accurate. And so when we were looking at this product originally, it was nice that you could just have it as simple or as complex as you want.
Okay.
If you want to just rattle it off, you could just crank it out versus go really in depth and link things if you want.
Sure.
So
yeah, because I'm familiar with using the action items at the web, enabled coordination tab, especially when you're kind of throwing things together, or the integration or that design review piece that's in there. So the nice thing is that with the Newforma is that it puts everything all together. So I know when RFIs come in, I know when emails, and it, you can kind of bundle everything all together, and it automatically kind of does a lot of that for you. You don't have to link things together.
Yep.
Does that have that ability to do it too, where it will automatically link? So if you're doing a keyword search, everything will come up already, or does it not have that?
No, and that's fundamentally the probably the key difference between this and Newforma, right? And the value the core value of New Forma Project Center is that, especially used example you're just talking about, right? If you're using action items and I'm, if we're not using that, right, then you've got your to-do list and it's somewhere, and I've got my to-do list and it's somewhere, and someone else has, 3 things and they get an email from a client, and New Forma gives you that one place to go to say, okay,
right. Yeah, which is what I love, because if somebody forgets something, I can just go keyword it and find it. And
exactly.
I don't have to then worry about, did somebody enter it here and did it go look to there, and did it get translated? I can just go into one spot, keyword search, and boom, it comes up with everything.
And that's exactly right. But what it doesn't particularly do, right, and frankly, it's not intended to do that, is it doesn't give you a particularly useful visualization of.
Oh, it's not visual. Yeah, right. No, right? It's not meant to. It's not meant to be visually oriented. Yeah.
Exactly, and so that's where this comes in, and it says, okay, in a slightly different context, and you're trying to understand things in a slightly different way. Having that visual understanding can instantly provide that visibility and context, and then communicate that to the rest of the team without actually having to sort of actively do anything, right? It's just by virtue of it being there and up to date, everybody can just sort of see what's going on. So it's a different in my mind, and I think in New Forma's mind, right? It's a different context. It's a different goal that you have in mind, and as a result, it's put together in different ways, right?
I just wanted to check in with Ha because we're running out of time here, and we haven't heard from anyone from Stall yet about this. Ha, are you still out there?
Yes, I am.
What do you think?
I think it's a good tool, I think, for like pre-construction and as we're getting ready to go into construction. Our concern is we already have 3 different platforms that we use while we're in construction, trying for lean and task management for ourselves. So adding another layer on with our field side, I really think it's going to be a struggle to try to get them to take on another platform. What we have in-house actually kind of talks to each other already. And I know that Jim and Jesse talked to you guys about how we manage our project schedule and how we could incorporate the task and how it adjusts with dates if we don't hit it, things like that. So that's how we are watching our schedule and our tasks on submittals. And we've used New Forma on other projects too. We use Prolog in-house, but then we also have our own submittal spreadsheets that we keep that keeps everyone up to date on where we are, what our timing is when it comes in, things like that. We do weekly reports on all the reports from RFIs to pricing to submittals. We have our weekly rolling schedules that we're releasing. So I guess for us is on the construction side, I don't know if this would be a good fit for us since we already are using tools that are making us efficient and on our side.
No, thanks for that. That's good to know. That's helpful.
Sure. And oh, sorry, didn't mean to keep going. Please.
I was going to say, and that's what we've been, I think, going back and forth about too, is that the last thing we want to do is take, an organization that we wanted to partner with because we like their work and then go in there and disrupt the way that they work. All we're trying to do, all we would be trying to do is find some tools that would allow us to work together on things. So obviously we're not going to go into your Microsoft project and mark something off if I've completed it and that kind of thing. So it's not a collaborative tool that we could all use together. So I don't know if there's some role for this that could be about tasks that you're working on with the team versus tasks that you're working on individually, or if that ends up being disruptive. But obviously that would be an important consideration if you would feel like this is just adding one more tool, would break the camel's back. I don't know.
I guess my concern is, go ahead, Alex.
Oh no! Well, all I was going to say too, right, is this gets back to the use it in the appropriate places in the way where it makes the most sense, right? So, for this particular project, right, and for the way in which you work, and I mean, it sounds like you work pretty well with the systems you have in place internally, right? It very well might be that the best way, should you decide to use this on the project, the best way to use this on the project is to use it for, a wide variety or a wider variety of things during pre-construction and design and so on. And then, as you get into construction, maybe the scope of application for this particular tool, maybe it shrinks at that point in the project because, more things are on your plate and more things are, being managed internally by you folks. And maybe there might still be some sort of high level sort of team coordination in a basic sense that maybe still happens here, but that scope of application may very well shrink in a different phase because there's different constraints and there's different different circumstances at that point in the project. So it is not intended to be a blanket wide just application. Very much we look at this at we look at our business as from a lens of, if we're not helping you and your business be more successful or be as successful, but have things be easier or better in some way, right? If we're not accomplishing that, then we're doing something wrong, right? And so, if we're not the right fit to help with that, then we don't want to push something that would be the wrong fit. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
So for me, I don't think that this is a tool that the construction team with their in-house systems needs to use exclusively. For me, this is a great tool for pre-design and all through the design process, and then the 2-week look of tasks that the design team needs to do during construction, where there's a light overlay with the construction team. But reinventing the wheel for in-house processing for stall is not advantageous to anybody. But the idea of of this system during the process and actually being part of the CA process is probably extremely helpful. And the idea that you can see what's going on and who's doing what, when, where, and why, and you can monitor it from your iPhone is probably very helpful. So I don't see the fact that stall not using this as an integral part of the process as any kind of problem whatsoever. I wouldn't even expect them to even want to try to use something different. They've already got their systems set up. But it would be helpful during CA if for the 2 to 4 week look, we understood what RFIs were coming in, what shop drawings were coming in, whatever was coming in, and when it was coming and how much time we had to get it back out and who it was going to, right? So is it coming through the architect and going to the engineer and coming back to the architect from the engineer and then going back out, or whatever the case may be. So
yeah, thanks for that.
I don't yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you. So I just want to jump in real quick, just for the sake of everyone's time today. If we need to have another discussion offline, not in a demo environment, I'd be more than happy to set something up if that's something that needs to take place. But Chris, if you don't mind, I know that you and I have been communicating back and forth, but if you want to forward my contact information to everybody on this call, or I can do so afterwards, any questions that pop up, I want to make sure everybody, everybody has their piece addressed. Does anybody have anything else to add, just for the sake of everyone's schedules today? Hello?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
I've got nothing to add.
I'm good.
Okay, awesome. And like I said, this demo and all the conversations, I've recorded the session, so I'm going to forward this over to Chris. But if anybody has anything else to add, just go ahead and do so. But I'm going to send over my information to everybody on this call.
Great. I'm posting it right now for them in Podio as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Everybody, thank you again for joining today. And Alex, thank you again. Chris, if you and I, what are my next steps with you? Do you want me to follow up with you later this afternoon or sometime next week? What do you think?
So our process is that we will have a PMT, a project management team meeting next week. And now everybody's, I think all of the key folks have had a chance to kind of really put this through its paces. We still have our extended demo time so they can get in there and play with it themselves. I've given them all invitations, although some of them haven't yet signed up for the demo. And then they can kind of get in there and play with it and just see. I think it's pretty easy. I think it's actually easier than Podio to manage. So I think that'll be heartening for many people who have found Podio somewhat difficult. So I think they'll like that, and that way, when we get to that Thursday vote, I think we can decide if this is the tool that we want to take on for the team.
Great. Okay. Well, if anything pops up in the meantime, you need anything from me, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thank you
afternoon.
very much. Appreciate it.
Happy Friday.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks everybody for being on this demo.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Have a nice day.